What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Bangers and Munch. My name is Munchables, and I'll be bringing you the bangers of the week for the LPL. We're going into week number 5, if I'm not mistaken, and as you see, we've had a little bit of a change up around here, some posh new graphics and things, so very excited about that. But before I jump into the bangers, let's take a quick look at the standings, because we're heading towards the halfway mark in the LPL, and for anyone that's missed the first half, let me give you a little bit of a lowdown on each of the teams. So you know who to look out for when you're looking at the standings. So, when we look at the top of the standings, we've got EDG, still flawless. They look exceptional. If you want to see maybe the best team in the world right now, EDG is your go-to. LNG as well, looking really good, but now their most recent series was a loss to RA. We've seen a bit of a weakness there, especially when it comes to early game skirmishing. It feels like LNG struggle a little bit, but against RA, it was much more about late game and decision-making and drafting as well. So, a few things to work on there for the side of RA. Still a very, very good-looking team. A lot of mechanical talent. Really, really exceptional in the laning phase. But when they don't get a massive lead early, that's when they start to struggle. RA as well, similar story to what we just talked about with LNG. They're on a win streak, and they legit look really good. This is not the same RA as last split. Well, I mean, it is, but I don't feel the same worry with RA that I did last split. Like the win streak they had, I felt like it was all going to go wrong eventually. This time around, it feels much more consistent and much more solid. However, whether or not they are going to be able to place like top 4, whether or not this is a team that we could see at Worlds, I still have a lot of question marks there. I'm curious what we see once we get to playoffs, but definitely a playoff contender, maybe top 6. FPX, these guys were on a tear. I was saying they looked like maybe the best team in the LPL. I was huffing the hopium. They just got 2-0'd by IG. I'm filming this as of the 3rd of July. This morning, they got 2-0'd by IG. I have no idea where that came from. I have no idea what happened. FPX are an enigma. The bot lane really struggling. Playing weak side there. Nuguri and Doombe not enough to carry it. Really, really rough series for them. LWX especially had a really terrible series. So I'm hoping there can be a bit of redemption there. But bad luck for FPX. Overall, though, Doombe is on another level. I think he's maybe at his best form that he's ever been in this split. OMG and LGD, both teams that are doing well in the standings. They are showing promise, but we still need to see a little bit more consistency. We need to see a little bit more depth of strategy before I can be super over the moon excited and calling them a top team. JDG, WE, Top Esports, and IG, I'm going to put all in the same category of just inconsistent middle-of-the-table teams. All 4 of these are organizations and teams that have had previous massive success. WE, a bit of a caveat there, right, where it's been a long time since WE as an org had massive success, but this roster feels like one with at least the potential to do that. Obviously, Breathe doing very well in the top lane, but ultimately, there's still a lot to be seen. WE obviously having issues in the mid lane as well, changing their roster around a little bit. So, I don't know. All 4 of these teams, potential to be a top team, but we still need to see more. Suning and BLG, this is the Sadge category here. Looked hopeful at the start of the split. It's sort of fallen apart since that point. Both of them feel like there are shot calling issues. It feels like there are drafting issues at times. It's not looking good. I'm not going to lie. For making it to Worlds, I don't think either of these teams are in that category anymore. RNG, I mean, just massive KEKW. I'm sure this team will get back on top before the end of the split. Whether or not they can contend with finals is a whole different conversation. I don't think so right now, but I certainly expect them to be in playoffs. Everything is going wrong for this team right now. Cryan especially is having a really, really terrible split. But I believe that they'll still make playoffs. I have no idea. It's a big conversation. RNG right now is a big conversation, so I'm not really going to dip my toes in that too much. And then the bottom 4 teams, Rogue Warriors, TT, UP, and V5. I think all 4 of these teams are completely doomed. I don't see a way that any of these 4 makes it into playoffs. So, now that we've got the standings out of the way, let's talk bangers. As I am Munch, and that is the name of the show. So, we'll start off with Wednesday, the 7th of July at 10 a.m. BST and at 4 a.m. CDT for you guys over in America. RNG versus LGD. Now, obviously, I just mentioned RNG, kind of a big topic. I don't want to go too in depth, but they've been having some some issues in games, certainly. It has been rough, but again, I believe that this is a team that will pull it together. They've had a bit of time to pull things together. For context as well, they were late to the LPL this split, so they started later than everyone else, so they have less games under their belt, but also had to do quarantines and things during the first couple of weeks of LPL, so I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt in the short term, and we'll see what's going to happen. But importantly, it's a team that we're waiting to see something great from, right? It's a team that we're waiting to see the full potential of. LGD on the other side of the scoreboard is kind of a similar category to me, where they have been doing well. I'm not saying that we're not seeing anything great from them, but I still need to see more, right? We've seen that it can work really well. We've also seen it fall apart in games. So Shadow, I think, is the highlight player in this matchup, and I think Shie versus Cryan as a matchup is going to be really, really important, because I think Shie, in my mind at least, is way above in the tier list of mid laners over Cryan right now, especially with the meta having a lot of assassins and playmakers. That's really Shie's comfort zone. It's kind of the opposite of Cryan's comfort zone. But I would say that's the big one, as well as Xiaohu up in the top side against either Garvey or Fairness. Both of them have been played. Both of them I've been pleasantly surprised by as well. I feel like Shadow likes to play up towards that top side, so I feel like we're going to have a bit of a brawl on the top side of the map between these two teams. Right now, I'm leaning the way of LGD if we see RNG on the most recent form that we've seen, but RNG certainly could have a big comeback and show up in that series. So the next series, number 2, we're going to go over to the weekend already. Saturday, the 10th of July at 12 p.m. BST or 6 a.m. CDT. It's RNG versus IG. Now, I know 2 RNG series right after I've just mentioned how low they are in the standings. I know, guys, but come on. It's RNG. They just won MSI. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt, right? And also, it's against IG. Not only is this a classic LPL matchup, but IG, this Barmy team just managed to beat FBX 2-0. My mind is completely blown. Feels like Rookie is completely back. Shun especially. Shun is the guy that I am excited for on this team right now. Feels like every single correct play that IG makes, Shun is spearheading it. Every single bad play, it's not Shun that got caught out, right? So really, really excited to see more of him. Wink as well, actually having a really good series for himself, playing Callista and Draven. Really, really aggressive bot side with Wink and Lucas as the duo. I hope that they stick to those two, because they've been swapping around a lot on the bot side. I really hope that it is Wink and Lucas going up against RNG, because Gala and Ming have been criticized a lot for their laning phase in the past, but also this split. So I think that could be a big weakness for RNG, where RNG quite often like to play up through the top side. But if RNG do play bot side, like we have seen them sometimes, we could have an absolute brawl down in that bottom lane. Either way, I think it'll be an interesting series. Last one then, WE versus JDG. Sunday, 11th of July, 12 p.m. BST, 6 a.m. CDT. This one should be a banger. Now, neither of these teams are topping the table right now. I believe they were both in the same category when I went through the standings earlier, where it's like inconsistent, not really giving us everything that we want from the teams. But when you just look at these two rosters, right? You have Breathe up in the top lane against Zoom. That's a matchup I've been desperately waiting to see all split along. You got Beishong versus Kanavi, 2 of the top junglers from 2020 going head to head. And then in the mid lane, it gets a bit more interesting, right? Where Yagao is having an amazing split for himself. Really, really great performances from him pretty consistently as well. Whereas for WE, a lot of issues in the mid lane, right? They were playing Mole for a lot of the split, but he's been not really meshing with the team, and I don't think that that's Mole's fault per se. I think that's a team issue, but still not being able to put up the performances. And then they've recently brought in Shanks, and again, Shanks has had some decent performances, but I don't feel like that roster swap is fixing any of the fundamental issues with WE right now. I feel like it's more of a shot calling thing. They don't feel very decisive, and quite often I feel like they're making incorrect decisions when they do decide things. So interesting about the mid lane matchup there. I think Yagao will be the favorite regardless of who he's against there. But then down in the bot lane, it's kind of a similar story to what I was talking about with the mid lane, just reversed, right? Where we have Elk, who previously Joel Monk, for anyone that doesn't know, he's now Elk, and Missing have actually been looking a bit better than previous splits in the laning phase. Still, they make some mistakes, but better at least. But they're up against Lumao, who's not having the greatest split, and then Loken has been subbed out for LPC. I don't know who will be playing later this week, but feels like JDG are having a bit of a crisis of identity in that bottom side. So I'm not entirely sure what to expect, honestly, from this series. But with two teams that are having, in my mind, similar struggles, I feel like this is going to be a very even matchup. And honestly, could be a turning point for either team to basically say, hey, we've figured it out. This is the direction we're going to go. This is our identity for the rest of the split. So I think that's going to be a really interesting matchup. Not as much of a banger as the other matchups, but I think one of those matchups that you get each split that are a defining matchup for whoever wins. And maybe for whoever loses. And then I've got one honorable mention as well, which I'll not go into detail, but Suning versus Top Esports, it'll be the last series, or I think second to last series on the Sunday. Let me check quickly. Yeah, the second to last series on Sunday. It'll actually be before WEJDG. Suning are struggling right now. Same story for Top Esports, but at the end of the day, it's a rematch from Worlds, right? This was a Worlds semi-final, if I'm not mistaken. Really hype matchup. I believe that's going to be really exciting. And also, Jackie Love versus Wanfong. Both of them big Draven players. Draven feels like he's sneaking back into the meta. Exceptionally good pick against Kalista, which is a really strong AD carry right now. Really, really good against Ezreal as well. Draven could be a big pick in that matchup, so definitely one to keep your eyes out for. So I've rambled a little there, but we're only 11 minutes into the recording, so I'd say that is a pretty concise episode considering how much ground we covered. If you want to know more about any of the matchups or any of the teams, please do drop a comment down below. Make sure you like and subscribe and all that good stuff. And I think I'm going to do a video that goes a little bit more in depth on an update of the LPL so far. It's a bit less of a TLDR like I did at the start of this episode. With that said, though, that's been Bangers and Munch. I will see you guys either on the LPL or on another video or some other good stuff, or check out my stream on Twitch as well. But yeah, until then, I'll see you guys in Champ Select.